Why would a perfect society create its own agent of chaos? Why would gods of absolute order, beings of immense power and wisdom, allow a liar, a thief, and a murderer to live among them, to eat at their table and to plot their downfall? It seems like a paradox, but it is the single most important rule of the cosmos. The answer to this riddle reveals the true nature of power. The gods do not merely tolerate the trickster, from Loki to Hermes. They require him. For a pantheon that cannot survive a little chaos is a pantheon already dead. To understand why, we must look beyond the crime and see the cosmic function. Every trickster, from Loki in the north to Hermes in the south, from Anansi in the west to the coyote of the first peoples, plays three sacred roles that the gods of order cannot. They are the catalyst, the boundary keeper, and the mirror. First, the trickster is the divine catalyst. Imagine a world perfected, a divine order, flawless and eternal. The sun rises and sets by decree. The seasons turn like clockwork. The gods sit on their thrones, content in their power, their stories already written. It is a paradise of perfect stability. It is also a tomb, because a universe without change is a universe without life. It is stagnant, and the gods of order, by their very nature, cannot break their own perfection. They are the architects of the system. They cannot be the architects of its evolution. For that, you need a thief. Look to the peak of Mount Olympus. There the gods feast, holding their fire, their divine spark, as a private treasure. Below, humanity shivers in the dark, ignorant, primal, without art or science. Zeus, the king of order, decreed it so. This was the law. And then comes Prometheus. He is not a king, not a warrior. He is a titan, a clever outsider. He sees the static perfection of the gods and the squandered potential of mortals. So he makes a choice. With a fennel stalk, he steals a single ember from the hearth of the gods and carries it down the mountain. It was the greatest crime in history. The punishment was eternal. A titan chained to a rock, his liver devoured by an eagle each day, only to regrow and be devoured again. This is what the gods of order do to those who break their rules. But look at what the crime produced: fire. With it, humanity forged tools, built cities, wrote poetry, and gazed up at the stars, not with fear, but with curiosity. Prometheus's sacrilege was humanity's salvation. He broke the divine law to unleash mortal destiny. The trickster does not ask for permission to create the future. He knows that progress is always born from a broken rule. The pact was broken, and with it the age of divine monopoly was now just a memory. This brings us to the trickster's second, darker purpose. He is the keeper of the boundary. How do you know the strength of a wall? You strike it. How do you know the limits of a law? You break it. The gods of order create the rules, but it is the trickster who shows them where the true boundaries lie. He is the divine stress test. He walks to the very edge of the abyss and forces the other gods to look into it. Think back to Asgard, before its fall. Loki, in a fit of cruel mischief, sneaks into the chambers of the goddess Sif, the wife of Thor. He stands over her as she sleeps, and with a blade, he shears off her glorious golden hair, the living symbol of the fertility of the land. It was a violation, a meaningless, personal act of vandalism. Thor's rage was absolute. He would have shattered every bone in Loki's body. But the trickster does not deal in simple destruction. His chaos is generative. To save his own life, Loki is forced to journey to the dark workshops of the dwarves, the master smiths beneath the earth. He pits two families of craftsmen against each other in a contest of creation, a wager of life and death. And from that desperate, coerced act of creation, The gods received their greatest treasures, a new head of hair for Sif, spun from pure living gold, the spear Gungnir for Odin, which never misses its mark, and for Thor, the hammer Mjolnir, the single greatest weapon in the 9 realms, the ultimate symbol of divine order and protection. Do you see the pattern? Loki's transgression, an act of pure chaos, forced the gods to acquire the very tools that would define their power and ensure their reign. He violated the sanctity of a goddess, and in doing so, armed the entire Pantheon for the war to come. He showed them their vulnerability, and in the process, made them stronger than they had ever been before. The silence that followed Sif's shearing was the sound of a Pantheon realizing it was not yet complete. The trickster reminds the gods that their power is not a birthright. It must be forged, tested, and earned, often in the fires of their own humiliation. This leads to the trickster's final, most dangerous role. He is the mirror to the gods. Imagine you are a god of thunder, or wisdom, or the sun. Your power is unquestioned. Your word is law. Mortals tremble at your name. After centuries of this, a poison begins to creep in, a divine rot called hubris. You begin to believe your own legends. You forget that you too are a part of creation, not above it. And who can tell a god he is being a fool? Who can speak truth to a power that can unmake the world? Only the fool himself, the jester, the trickster. Hermes, the messenger of the Greek gods, was a thief and a liar from the day he was born. On his very first day of life, he crept from his cradle and stole the sacred cattle of his brother, the glorious sun god Apollo. He made the cattle walk backward to hide their tracks and invented the lyre from a tortoise shell simply to pass the time. When confronted by Apollo, a being of immense power and divine sight, the infant Hermes simply lied. He swore his innocence with the straight face of a master manipulator. Apollo, the god of truth and prophecy, was utterly baffled. He was made a fool by a newborn. The story is played for laughs, but the lesson is deadly serious. It shows that even the god of light has blind spots. It proves that divine power and divine wisdom are not the same thing. Hermes, in his chaotic infancy, held up a mirror to the pride of Olympus and revealed its cracks. He is the necessary agent of humility. He keeps the gods honest by being the god of lies. He reminds them that no system is foolproof and no god is infallible, which brings us back to the beginning, back to the cold halls of Asgard and the body of a dead god. We have seen the trickster as a catalyst for change, a definer of boundaries, and a mirror to hubris. But the death of Balder was none of these things. It was not a prank, it was an ending. So why was this necessary? Because the trickster's final purpose is to be the agent of cosmic renewal. By the time Loki engineers Balder's death, the gods of Asgard are no longer the noble beings they once were. They have broken oaths, murdered for gold, and allowed their honor to decay. Their world has grown old and corrupt. The system is failing. It needs to be rebooted. And so, Loki pushes the button. The death of Balder is the trigger for Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. It unleashes a war that scours the 9 realms in fire and flood. The greatest gods, Odin, Thor, Freya, all fall. The sun is devoured, the stars vanish. The world sinks back into the sea. This is Loki's ultimate act of chaos, the complete and utter destruction of the divine order. But it is not the end of the story. After the destruction, the prophecy says, the world will be born anew. A new sun will rise. The few surviving gods and 2 human survivors will emerge to build a new world, one that is green, innocent, and free from the corruption of the old. The trickster did not just destroy the world, he cleansed it. He was the fever that burned away the disease. This is the awesome, terrifying necessity of the Trickster God. When a system becomes so rigid, so corrupt, so stagnant that it can no longer be reformed, he is the one who arrives to tear it all down so that something better can grow from the ashes. They are not gods of chaos. They are gods of potential. They are the living embodiment of the space between what is and what could be. Every order, every government, every belief system contains the seeds of its own stagnation. It is the trickster, the eternal outsider, who reminds us that rules are made to be tested, that pride is a prelude to a fall, and that sometimes the only path to a new beginning is a beautiful, terrible, and absolute end.